Bicara Supply Chain, highlighting and showcasing solutions for the most complex challenges facing the industry in 21st century by our team of subject matter experts and mentors. Broadcasting every week, all year round, we will present the most up-to-date series of podcasts and webinars.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Bicara Supply Chain. This is Nurhadi House. I'm speaking now with the Procurement Doctor, Karthik Rama, and we'll be discussing the topic on transformation of tender management. Thanks for coming and welcome to our show, Karthik.
Thank you so much, Nurhadi. I'm happy to be as a guest.
Mm-hmm. So before we get in, can you please brief a bit about yourself and your professional background?
Sure. Well, I come with close to 13 years of experience. I started off as a basic procurement guy, handling the category environmental services, professional services. I managed a team where we used to do the end-to-end procurement activities, right from the tendering process to contracts and the PO activity. That particular organization went on to embark upon a procurement transformation journey, and that's where my journey started as well. And for the last 13 years, I've been helping organizations set up their procurement processes, fix them. So I'm usually called into procurement organizations to help them fix the procurement issues. I start off by diagnosing their current procurement process, give them recommendations on their procurement process and systems. And that's where I go in and do the diagnosis, give them the potential solutions, what could help them fix, and also lead them to the pathway of a procurement transformation.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So let's start to the fundamental question, Karthik. Why the tender management system is required for the business?
Well, most of the tender management processes today, in today's world, or it's been happening for a while, it's more so very manual in nature. So manual work means inaccuracies, okay? A lot of paperwork, when there's a lot of paperwork, there's a lot of time-consuming activity as well. The reason you really require a tender management system is to ensure you're effective and efficient in your process for a buyer who's trying to source or buy products or goods, as well as for the seller who's trying to bid for the things that he supplies to buyers. So this is the reason why you require a tender management system.
Mm-hmm. So other thing I would like to know is what are the main benefits of having a tender management system for a buyer and also for seller?
Okay, that's a good question. So to start off with from the buyer side of things, because for the buyer, most of the administrative tasks are minimalized. Okay, so administrative tasks will be minimalized. They could be streamlined. They could be standardized by implementation of the tender management system. That's one of the benefits. The other benefit is application of templates by sourcing type. So you could have repeatable templates that are available in your tender management system. This would mean you not creating the tender right from scratch every time. So that also helps you in efficiency. Having a proper audit trail, since all the process is driven by the system, this would mean it getting harder to cheat or lesser corruption within the system. So if you've got a proper audit trail and visibility across, everything is online, paperless. Okay, this would also mean that you have the latest information stored in one system, which means you'll have a single source of truth for all your tenders. So these are a few benefits that I'd like to talk about.
I have another two questions here. First is, what are the features of a tender management system? And second, what things to keep in mind after implementing of a tender management system?
Okay. Now, on the previous question, I also had to speak on the seller side. So what I spoke about was on the buyer side. So let me just give you briefly 3 points on the seller side. On the seller side, we have a database for the seller, where he has all his requirements that the customer is asking for or the buyer is asking for, the design of the product or the images that they need to reproduce or sell to the customer, as well as other specific documentation or requirements that the customers tell. You also have all the previous versions of the bids in one place for the seller. So that's also a lot of help because they usually are getting emails left, right, and center. And for them to go back and look at a particular response, it's kind of takes time. Mm-hmm. They also have this amazing way of getting new opportunities as well as a seller. So since he's on a network as a seller, not only one customer is accessible to him, but he is accessible to multiple other customers as well. So he can potentially also get more work by being on the tender management. That is from the benefit standpoint. I remember you asking a question on the features, right? The first one was the feature.
Yes. I was asking about the features.
Wonderful. So a few points on the feature side. And I'm telling you just from the basic piece, there are a lot of features that you can look at in a tender management system. The minimum to minimum, your end-to-end tender process should be able to be managed in the system, which would entail right from drafting your tender, inviting the supplier or the seller, getting the responses from the seller, okay, and then evaluating what the responses were, awarding it, and then maybe switch it to a contract or a PO. So that end-to-end process should be in your tender management system as a feature. The other thing is you should be able to qualify your tenders, qualifying your tenders to ensure that the suppliers are worth bidding in on the tender. That should be another feature. And the invitation should be done through the online medium. You don't want you to send an email, so it would not make sense to do that. There are a lot of organizations, especially in some parts of Europe and the Middle East, they like using the sealed bidding process, meaning the supplier submits a response, it comes back to you as a buyer, and it's like an envelope in which you get the prices. Only an authorized person can open the envelope to evaluate what the responses from the supplier. This is to ensure that we don't have any kind of a corrupt activity or a malpractice that is considered, wherein you get to see the prices of the supplier that is bidded, and you're calling him and telling you should bid lesser. Okay, so instead of that happening, we have a sealed bidding process in specific categories. So you should have that as a feature as well if your organization requires it. You should have the capacity of storing and retrieving historical tenders, all the details that you've historically tendered, reports to understand specific statuses of each tender. So this way you'll be able to manage your end-to-end tendering activities. And if you look at it, the last piece is you should be in a position to do collaboration, which is internally within your organization. For instance, you have a technical team who can help you evaluate. So you should be able to collaborate with that team on how to evaluate the supplier's responses. Even kind of a messaging system where you can message internally through the system on what the tendering piece is. Lastly, you could also have utilize the auctions functionality, or maybe a reverse auction. In this case, you see specific categories where you could do reverse auctioning. And you should be able to do multiple layers of tenders within a tender, like a RFP, multiple bids within a tender. For instance, the first one is non-pricing, second one is with commercials. So the system should be capable of doing that. So that's the features that I had on mind that are required for a tender management system.
And the last question I have, what things to keep in mind after implementing the tender management system?
Well, that's a nice question. I can speak on this for the next 2 days, but I'll just let you know the 2-3 points that are kind of top on my mind. And if you see, all 3 points are again have a overarching pattern. Okay, the first thing I would call is spreadsheet love. Okay, your love for spreadsheets, not letting go of the old process. For instance, you've implemented a tender management system, but you're so ingrained with your older process, which was supposedly you didn't use a tender management system. You've been using spreadsheets, right, to get the pricing from the seller and back and forth.
Yeah.
So instead of what I've seen a lot of people do is they spend millions of dollars. They adopt or implement a tender management system, and all they do is they attach a spreadsheet in the tender management system and send it to the supplier. So instead of using an email, they move to the tender management system and they're transacting with the supplier with spreadsheets. So that is a whole waste of money. Definitely a no-no. I know there will be a lot of people out there saying, Karthik, we can't get rid of spreadsheets, right? And I agree to that. There are certain cases where spreadsheets do come in handy. But I don't want everyone to go with the notion that we use spreadsheets for everything. We should try to minimalize that. Only where it's very critical or that you cannot do it without using your tender management system, that's where you can use a spreadsheet. Even a lot of these tender management systems do have the option of exporting the Excel spreadsheet with the line items, with the pricing, with the questions. Supplier can enter his responses and upload it into the system as well. So you have a feature like that. You could still utilize it. That is one. The other thing that comes to my mind is you being a special Sally, meaning everyone has their own little process of how they run their tender. So I'm an IT category buyer, and I say within IT category, I'm specifically managing hardware. Okay, so I say hardware is completely different, and my process runs only in this way. So, and you have your specific tender questions as well, or the type of questions that you would ask. And it's like a special recipe for each person how they run their tenders. That is not the right way to go. Okay, ideally, a tender management system, what it's doing for an organization is it's bringing in more standardization. It's bringing in more visibility to the overall organization. Why not use that opportunity and improve the process? For instance, there's something good happening in hardware. We could utilize whatever is common between the other categories and make it like a standard practice across all the process areas. And there are a lot of functionalities in the tender management systems wherein you could have a library of templates or questions based on category. So it is a nice way to standardize, and also, like I said in the beginning, it would help to reduce your time, efforts, and bring in more accuracy. So the third point, and this will be my last one in this area, is be ready to change. A procurement, a tender management system isn't a silver bullet to all your issues. Okay, so you should be ready to utilize the system to the extent you can, and you also should have come back and be ready to change, because the system cannot be exact replication of your current process. Each system might come to you with standard process practices or best practices. Try and see if you can adapt that. And if it's not working, it's important that you communicate the changes that are required and look at how you can improve. So that would be my last point in terms of after implementation, you should still be ready to accept the change and also improve from there on.
Awesome. All right. So before we close today's conversations, do you have any final thoughts, Karthik?
As a overall key point from this discussion is, for me in particular, the tender management system. It's a very nice tool to bring in if you want to improve your overall process area. The overarching theme out here is the system should be able to manage your core process areas, whichever are core for you to run your business. And the key piece out here is to take baby steps, maybe potentially roll out by category, so that one category runs it, and then they're happy with the system, then you roll it out to the other category. So that way you can roll it out the best way, and you learn from your mistakes as the rollouts go forward, and you improve as you go. So that would be my key takeaway from the podcast.
Nice. Awesome. All right. So thanks again, Karthik. Really enjoyed to talk with you today, and see you and goodbye.
At Bicara Supply Chain, we are committed to driving global perspective to embrace technological adaptation in improving process efficiencies. Don't forget to subscribe, like and share Bicara Supply Chain. And stay tuned for the latest updates. To learn more, visit our website www.bicarasupplychain.com. Thank you for listening to us. We look forward to seeing you at our next episode.